movie fans? Welcome to Cold and Trash Horror Movie Grinding Podcast. I am your host, Ian. This is the show in which we grind on the absolute worst horror and sci-fi movies we can find and make fun of just how bad they are, as well as praise the good, cool classics that have been lost throughout time. Now get ready, because we're about to dive real deep inside of Hollywood's dumpster in search of the good, the so bad it's good, and the fucking ugly. Now put on your seatbelt, grab a beer or two, and enjoy the show. Cold Trash Horror Movie Grind coming back at you with another one. This time we are doing Event Horizon. That's right. So I got a question for you all. What do you get when you mix Alien with The Shining, with Hellraiser, with Sphere, with Jurassic Park, I guess, and just like 90s industrial new metal? You get Event Horizon from 1997, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. If you watched my show last week when I did the top 10 list, I said Paul Thomas Anderson, and yeah, I totally look like an idiot if you watch that. No, it is Paul W.S. Anderson. Very, very different person. But much different. Yeah, like the guy who did Boogie Nights in Mongolia did Event Horizon. No, it's the guy who did Mortal Kombat. Anyway, it's a pretty good bad movie. I mean, it's not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily good either. But it's a cult classic. Definitely bombed the box office, but it's got a good cast. Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill. And then I've got a good cast. I've got from the Hell to the Deadites show on Infamous Horror. I got G. What's
Hello.
up, G? How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. Also have Dustin's back.
What's happening?
What's happening? What's up?
Having a good night, man. Thanks.
Welcome back.
Appreciate it.
So, G, this is your first time seeing this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, what do you think?
I was pleasantly surprised at how much I liked this.
Really?
I
Okay.
didn't love They Lived when I watched that, so I expected the next movie I had to watch wasn't going to be as good. But I was like watching this, and as it went on, I was like, "Holy shit, this is kind of good!"
Right?
I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow, this is good."
Nice. Okay. Cool. Yeah. It's definitely not great by any means, I don't think, but I mean, it's a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin, what about you? What was the first time you saw it?
I actually saw this in the theaters, so it makes me feel
Oh.
old when we're talking about it as a cult horror.
Yeah.
I was 16. I was really excited about it because I love Sam Neill and Mouth the Madness and of course,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
But the first movie I saw with him was Omen 3.
You
But
saw
anyway,
that before Jurassic Park?
huh?
You saw Omen 3 before Jurassic Park?
Yeah. My father, he is a really big science fiction fan, and so he just openly allowed us to watch, midnight horror flicks, even as like an 8-year-old or whatnot. So I don't remember exactly how old I was. I was really young, and it was the first Omen I saw. It was part 3, and he played Damien as an adult.
Right.
And yeah, it just scared the hell out of me. Antichrist. But this movie I saw in the theater, and I loved it. I interpreted it as a physical manifestation of hell. So not a spiritual hell. You go to hell to die, not die to go to hell, type of thing. And
Yeah.
and it's got kind of a dark fantasy with little bits of body horror and psychological horror.
Mm.
And it only had one poor aspect to it, in my opinion, that it could have been improved. But besides that, I mean, I loved it. It had kind of poor character development, so you didn't really feel anything when they died off, But
Yeah.
besides that, it was awesome. I mean,
It-
Nail
it's
scooping out his own eyes and cutting his face.
it's a regular Paul W.S. Anderson. No, it's just like that. That's just what he does. That's the kind of movie you go into.
Yep.
Okay, so you loved it when you first saw it.
Yeah.
Now, many years later, I assume you probably watched it again for this show. I don't know if you've seen it between then and now, but how do you feel about it now?
Oh, I still enjoyed it. Yeah.
Okay.
It was exactly how I remembered, and I did watch it twice last night just to make sure I didn't, something didn't
Yeah.
pass by my attention. But yeah, it's exactly how I remember. And yeah, I think I've watched it maybe once or twice over the past 20 years or whatnot. But my opinion didn't change. It was the same. I remember it vividly when I was in the theater. I went by myself, but I also, at that time, I had this thing where I had to go to every movie every Tuesday by myself for the early bird special at like 8 a.m. And I was always the only person there, just had the whole theater to myself. And I would watch my movies that way.
Nice.
And I saw this one, and yeah, I loved it. All of the creepiness, the hell factor. Yeah, it is kind of like, Pinhead in a way, but, different.
It is very much Hellraiser in space.
The pleasure and pain type thing going on. And
yeah.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I did not see it in the theater, but a couple years later, I saw it. Funny story. So, I saw it in middle school, and I was age middle school. I saw it in middle school, in class. I had this like homework class. Like the end of the day, it was just like a open class just to like do homework and study and stuff. And we had one day we had a substitute teacher that was just like, "Fuck this! Like I don't know what to do." So she just turned on the TV, and we had like all the like cable stuff, and she turned it to HBO, and Event Horizon was playing on HBO, and it was like right at the scene where like everybody starts going crazy and starts hallucinating, saying like all the like dead people in their lives. And then like first thing you see is just like Sam Neill with his dead wife and like her tits right there on the camera for us 13-year-olds to see, and slitting her wrists. And I was just like, what is this?
What was the sub doing during that?
She was watching Event Horizon.
Oh man, she sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody found out, she'd probably get fired. And so,
yeah,
no, maybe my parents are watching this episode and they'll be like, "What? My son was doing what?" And then probably call up my old middle school and get the substitute fired from 20 years ago. I don't know. But yeah, so that was my introduction to the movie. And then I think me and my dad rented it shortly after, and I remember being like genuinely scared by it. It was Gee, how about you? Since you just saw it now as an adult, and it's much later, and there's been scarier movies later. Do you feel it's pretty scary, or not really?
I didn't get like jump scared or was like outright scared by it, but I did like that there were like horror aspects in it. I found all like the gore and the body stuff going on was like really cool and unexpected. Like going into this, I just read like the Letterboxd synopsis, so I did not expect it to be like a horror movie basically. So I was like, this is dope.
So what were you expecting going on?
Just sort of like, I don't know, just like an action space. I expected more like suspense. Like I didn't expect like all this. Like I just thought it was going to be like, oh, we got to like get them off the ship and get on the other ship and do this, and we only have so much time. Yeah. But I didn't expect it to be like, there's dead people.
Yeah, and that's like right away too. I mean, there's a couple of jump scares and like some psychological scares, which I like. That's my favorite thing is the psychological horror.
Me too.
But yeah, and then so they like find the spaceship, and then there's just like a dead body just floating around, and he's not just a dead body, but his eyes are missing, and he's all scarred up, and they're like, "Huh, well, that's quirky."
Corpsicle.
yeah. Yeah, they're like making fun of the guy.
Right. Their one-liners in that movie were like so like, wait, what?
And yeah, so like so yeah, there's definitely a lot of flaws in this movie. Like for example, they find the transmission that and it's just like people just finally just screaming and just like being murdered on tape, and they're like, I guess we should go check it out.
It's 2045 and there's still someone fluent in Latin on the ship too.
Well, not only that, but it's like, yeah, the top scientists of the world, they're like, it's some weird language. We've never heard it before. And it's liberate.
Yep.
It's spelled exactly the same as liberate. And they're like, I have no idea what this is. Until like eventually one guy is just like, that's totally Latin. And it's like, yeah, save me. Well, let's check out the ship. It's like they're like the calmest people. Like
Yeah.
they're walking around this ship that like it is some 90s BDSM nightmare kind of thing. Like there's spikes and everything just everywhere. They go through a hallway filled with like spinning blades. And it's just G, what were your thoughts on that when you first saw that?
I just thought it was cool. Like I didn't
It's
expect
cool. Yeah.
the set design to be like the set design and the cinematography blew me away. Like I could tell that it was like 90s CGI.
Oh,
like when
yeah.
the stuff's floating around on the ship, I was like,
That
I
was
can
bad.
see that that's not real. But I was like, and like when Sam Neill's in like the hallway with all like the computer boards and like the lights going through it, like
Right.
that was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree, yeah, completely that it's just it's a very cool, fun, like looking aesthetic movie, but like it doesn't make sense, which is just like it's fun to make fun of. Like I don't hate it by any means, but it's just like it's goofy almost. There's
man.
like spikes on the walls and stuff for like no reason.
When I was a teenager, I thought his explanation of all space and time and all that was like logical. And I watched it again and I was like, no. Hey, he pulled out a piece of paper and stuck a pencil. Oh, yeah. That's what we're doing?
The thing is that he's doing this in front of scientists. Like, I mean, the scene exists to explain it to us, like, just like dumb regular people. But the thing is that as a story, he's explaining it to scientists in the year, like, what year is this? Like
2045.
2047.
Oh,
47.
Good call.
And they, and he's like explaining the idea of like wormhole travel to to scientists in the future, and they're like, oh, wow, I have no idea. It's not like we're rocket scientists or anything, but oh wait, we are.
And see, actually, my memory was kind of altered a little bit. For some reason, my memory of it was that they had gone through a black hole. And maybe the fact that it was called Event Horizon and all that may have intertwined in my memory bank.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I watched it last time, I was like, wait, where's all the black hole business? I was like, oh, okay, that didn't happen.
What do you mean?
Like my memory of it is that they traveled through a black hole. That's not a thing.
Well, the ship did, and then it came back.
They don't definitively said that. They just kind of went into an alternate dimension of hell.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure that it is a black hole.
Did they? I watched it twice. Did I still miss the part where someone said we're about to enter the black hole?
Well, they don't. Like they physically, the characters that we're on the ride with, they do not. But the ship did 7 years ago, where it disappeared through a black hole, and then like it came back again.
So I should have trusted my instinct. It was correct.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to convince myself.
Always go with instinct.
Yep.
Dustin, why don't you tell us what the general plot is, just real quick?
Well, the general plot is that, in a nutshell, they're going out there to kind of retrieve or see what happened on a ship that they had sent out to Neptune decades and decades ago that quit responding.
Just 7 years ago.
Yeah, and so they go out there to inspect what happened on that ship. They have to bring a particular scientist because he developed the the sphere thing responsible for the wormholing. In case there was something wrong with that, and he needed to check it out. So they go out there. Apparently, everything seems to be fine, running as normal. That everyone's missing, or except for a few floating frozen bodies, and and then everything goes to chaos. From there because it's actually harboring a piece of the Twilight Zone, and
yeah,
they've entered it.
Mm-hmm.
And more. There's so they all start going crazy, and some start tearing themselves apart and killing themselves for no reason. And which all the deaths were cool, and they were still cool last night. That held up really well.
The deaths were all really cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
There was more stuff I wanted to be specific about, around the ending, but since we're just kind of talking about the basics, they all start going nuts and getting tormented by their own regrets and past mistakes. This is where the hell part comes in because, a lot of people think that now hell is like a personal hell. You get tormented forever through your biggest mistake. And that's what happens to all of them. The one huge mistake that ended in tragedy, and they are tormented and to the point to where they drives them insane and they essentially kill themselves. So not all of them, but a few of them. But and then one actually just loves the hell out of it and essentially becomes Pinhead in a way. And when we get to favorite lines, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, Sam Neill just embraces the whole thing. No, I love it. I made this. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, I don't care. You saw some crazy stuff. Cool.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's like kind of turns into The Shining. It's Shining in space, Hellraiser in space, Alien also once again in space. So that's basically it. So Sam Neill's character, he created the spaceship and the thing and everything. So they brought him along for him to like tell them what it's about. And and then he pretty much, here's the confusing thing. Does he get possessed by the ship or by the, because he's just a regular guy at first. And then
I actually paid close attention to that. His obsession takes over until he embraces his ultimate self-destruction and self-mutilation.
That happened real quick.
And he loves it. Yeah, right. That's what I'm talking about. The poor character. They should have added about 15 minutes of kind of isolating each character, telling a little bit more about their story and kind of empathizing or sympathizing with their turmoil over their past and whatnot, and focused a little bit more on Sam Neill individually to understand what he's going through, because he's gone crazy with obsession. He doesn't want to abandon ship or leave his precious creation behind, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. G, what did you think about all that? I guess like the character development and like how like the lack of therefore of.
That's just an opinion. You don't have to agree with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I didn't really notice that there was like so little character development or like backstory given to anyone really. I mean, it also was my first time watching it, so there's just like you get a lot of stimulus when you're watching something for the first time. So probably if I watched it again, which I think I will, I'd probably notice that a bit more. But yeah.
All right.
All right.
Like you see Dr. Weir, who is Sam Neill's character, and like he's just like a regular guy who's there, and then all of a sudden he like becomes a Cenobite. Like huge transformation over such a short period of time. Like what do you think of that?
It was cool. I didn't expect it. I expected that he would sort of be like the savior of the movie and save everyone.
Yeah, that's
the way they set it up. They set it up like
right.
he's the hero, and then he goes crazy and takes his eyeballs out and sews his eyes up. This is awesome. So I liked that. I liked that they kind of like twisted it.
I agree. I like that too. Yeah.
Oh, and Sam Neill nailed it too. I mean, I can't think of a single film where I thought he did poorly, you know. And he's done a lot of horror throughout.
Him and Lawrence Fishburne were definitely a good duo for this movie.
Cowboy Curtis.
Oh my god.
I won't let that go.
Right there.
Until I bump into him and be like, all right, Cowboy Curtis, yeehaw!
Wow. Okay. So I guess we're all in agreement here that it's a pretty good movie. I mean, I'm kind of like middle of the road, but I mean it's a fun movie for sure. Like, it's definitely good to make fun of as well. It's fun. Like,
you can make fun of it and love it, man. That's what's so great about it. Is that
sure.
You know,
don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
And there were a few other people who wanted to join this show too. They weren't able to make it, but so it seems like it's really popular. It definitely has this huge cult following, and I don't know anybody who doesn't like it. However, it failed really horribly in the box office and got like really terrible reviews by critics. Why do y'all think that might be?
Well, I've got an answer for you
Okay.
on that, if I can step in. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, it did poorly for a very common reason that a lot of cult movies do poorly, and that's because it doesn't attract the mainstream audience. And, you know, so it only takes one critic to go in there and say it sucks, and you know, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to see that then. And then you're like, why? And you're like, well, because Steve said it was bad. And you know what? And every time he says a movie's bad, I don't go. So that makes him 100% correct every time. Wait, what? That makes no sense.
That is true.
Yeah.
Siskel and Ebert definitely talk shit on it.
Right. Never listen to someone else, because the only opinion that matters, and I've said this before, is your own. You know, no one can tell you. A million people can tell you a movie's great, and a million people can tell you it sucks. It doesn't matter. You know, you don't know if you like it until you go and see it. And if you're the only one, so be it.
Nice, man. You just sound like that was great. That sounded like I'm blanking his name. Never mind. But that was good. I like that. Yeah. Actually, yeah. That you definitely nailed it, because back then, and what was it, 97? Like we didn't have shows like this that review. There was no YouTube. There was like right now on any movie that comes out, you'll have like 50 people on the internet reviewing it, and people who are into that niche. Back in 97, there were people who were not into that niche, and it was on newspaper, like maybe an actual show on TV, and they were like, yeah, this is bullshit. It's not up for an Academy Award. Don't watch it. And that's all people had to go off of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't listen to it. Stay away from Rotten Tomatoes.
Gee, why hadn't you seen it until just now? Had you heard of this movie before?
I hadn't heard of it, and
really?
My dad's a big science fiction guy, so I asked him. I was like, "Have you seen Event Horizon? I'm watching it for a podcast." Like, blah blah blah. He's like, "I think I have." He was like, "Who's in it?" I was like, "I think it's like Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne." My dad was like, "Sam Neill has never done a bad movie. He is good in every single thing he's in." So I was like, "Okay, so I'll watch the movie then." And then when I finished it like an hour ago, I went downstairs to talk to him about the movie, and he was like, yeah, no, it was really good. It was really good.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. Sam Neill has never done any bad. He hasn't done much recently, has he?
No, just the new Jurassic Park coming out, I guess.
He's always been kind of, it seems inconsistent, but he does have consistency. Even in the 80s, like in 81, he did like 3 movies. And there was like a 5-year gap. He did a couple more, then another 5-year gap. And then he did back-to-back Jurassic Park, Mouth of Madness, and then Event Horizon, and disappeared for a bit. And then, so on and so forth.
Besides Jurassic Park, he seems to be doing a lot of more independent type films, I guess.
I don't think I caught wind of any of those if he's done it.
Or I don't know, like cult films that ended up being cult classics. Like
I need to look into that if he's done anything recent in the past.
Yeah, I don't think he has.
Apparently, he was in Peter Rabbit 2, and Thor Ragnarok.
He was on
Thor Ragnarok. What would he do? The voice of? I guess obviously he did the voice of the Peter Rabbit. Was an anime, so
yeah. Who was he in?
Thor
Ragnarok? Man, I'm going to be turning on the Disney Channel tonight, watching the whole thing to find the one line that sounds like him because his face isn't in it.
Oh, did you guys are you familiar with the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, so the scene where they're acting out like they have like Matt Damon as Loki and stuff. Sam Neill plays Odin in that play.
Oh, sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
I got some motivation to watch it.
That's pretty cool. But back to his role in this movie, which I think he did perfectly. Like, I think that he was like best for that.
Yeah.
Which I said earlier, this is kind of like The Shining in space. Now I'm curious, what if like they got him to do Jack Torrance on The Shining? How do you think that would be? That would be definitely much different from Jack Nicholson.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think that he would
definitely go see it, man. I think he would.
He would have a
do a
great,
interesting
like,
perspective of that kind of personality. Jack Nicholson, he's just all over the place, crazy. I think Sam Neill would really tone it down, but in a much more creepy way.
Yeah,
you're just
Sam Neill's really good at being creepy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's where he started. His whole career started in horror, and so and then kind of sprinkled, like one drama in here and one action and a sci-fi, but kind of in general sticks around that area.
Yeah. So, Event Horizon is a very 90s movie. Would you all say that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in the top 2 of my favorites from the 90s type horror too. The Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, I definitely I'm planning on doing Mouth of Madness on the show at some point.
Yes, count me in, bro.
I mean, you got it. A lot of Carpenter films definitely fit here. We just did They Live a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
And which he was on. And then I want to do Mouth of Madness and just like maybe The Thing, but I mean that's a big cult film, but
it didn't start off that way, so it is
too good.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, this is a very 90s movie. Like how 90s is this? Like,
I'll tell you right now how 90s is in a single sentence. Would you like something hot and black inside you?
Yes, that's actually where I was going with this. Back when I guess it was okay to sexually harass your coworkers. Like, as 2047, that is still okay.
Oh, I know. That's the only thing that can't possibly hold up because it doesn't to now. So,
well, I mean,
apparently we're behind schedule, so.
That's 25 years from now.
Right, right. And we haven't even started the space program thing yet. So that was supposed to start in 2015.
So here's what's probably going to happen is that like right now, it's definitely no, that is not okay. And then within the next 10, 15 years, it'll like people will start not caring again and it'll like flip. And then in 2047, it'll be like the 90s again.
Like Back to the Future in 2015, everyone was anticipating that to, compare to current 2015 to see how many things they were right on and how many things they were way off.
Like nothing.
Yeah. In the 80s and 90s, for some reason, every like movie that took place in the future, they always thought we were thousands of years ahead just 10 years from now.
Yeah.
In 10 years, we'll have flying cars and teleport into space and We'll have spaceships flying and orbiting the moon and Neptune.
Yeah, in this movie, for example, they said that we would colonize the moon in 2015. And yeah, they had a right, it's like, man, they were optimistic.
Yep. I'm broadcasting from the moon, man. Bouncing off one of them satellites.
Oh yeah,
Up here all alone.
Damn.
Yep.
But
You look like an ant from here, man.
There's no lag. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I got an Android, so
Oh, okay.
it's pretty solid.
Anyway, G, what were you thinking about? Like, damn, this is like so 90s or something like that. Like, how many times when you were watching this movie were you reminded like this is a very 90s movie?
Well, like the CGI when they had stuff floating through the air.
Yeah, that's definitely
that was very 90s. I mean, Cooper just sort of embodies a certain character that only exists in 90s movies, where it's just this like very sarcastic person who's there.
Mm-hmm. He's the comic relief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's like, here I come, motherfucker. I did read something that his character originally did have a lot more backstory. Is that like he was like faced with some traumatic event, and so he's the kind of guy that like make jokes of everything to like get past the trauma. And then, like, I guess in the final cut of the movie, they were like, "Fuck all that."
That's
just
a perfect example of the poor character development. Is what you see him twice, you even forget he's out on the space fixing things, and then all of a sudden he's a magical hero. How am I supposed to root to a guy I don't even know?
He's not even a hero. He doesn't do anything.
Right, he gets all the way to the ship just to get blasted back out there again.
He also doesn't go through any. He doesn't have any weird flashbacks. Like one woman has her son that keeps appearing, and then Lawrence Fishburne's character has his like old crew member that was burnt up that he was feeling guilty about. Samuel had his wife committing suicide in front of him all over again, and then this guy he had nothing.
Enjoying a cup of tea on the outside of everything.
He was fine at the end. So it ends with like them being rescued. So you have like the one kid Baby Bear, who's like totally been physically and mentally just destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
You have I don't know any of these characters' names, but you have the blonde woman who she's like hallucinating Samuel's character like with her, so she's just freaked out.
Talking about Jack Noseworthy.
Okay.
Baby Bear and Mama Bear, yeah.
And then you have Cooper, he's fine. He's whatever.
Dude, his scene is like brutal, man. When he puts himself, in the hatch to release the pressure, and that was just like awesome.
That's a big scene.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting like maybe he was like going to explode or something, but it was more of like an implosion of pressure until his veins hemorrhaged and exploded individually. Like it was.
Yeah, he's just like bleeding through his entire arm.
And his eyes too. He just had like freaking blood squirting out of his eye sockets.
That was intense.
Mm-hmm.
That's intense now.
And that's how it became a cult classic. Because people like us see it, and we hear someone go, "Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh man, it's crazy! Man, this guy rips out his eyes and cuts jigsaw puzzle pieces on his face, and another one implodes." And then the other person's like, "Oh shit, I got to see this."
This movie is really obsessed with people's eyes getting.
Yeah, they were, man. Yeah, almost every scene, someone's eyes are scooped out or just don't have it.
There's what, 4 characters?
Yeah.
That's a lot. But
that sucks you in with the no eyeball thing. I mean, that's like the first 5 minutes of the film.
First minute of the film. Yeah.
As soon as you see that, you're like, oh man, what am I in for?
It's yes. You see Yeah, gee, what did you think of that? Where like you see Sam Neill and he's like he gets out of the thing. We don't know it at the moment, but he's in a dream and he like goes to the cockpit, and then there's his like naked wife, and she like opens her non-eyes sockets.
It
Like
was a good way to start the movie. I feel like it just sort
I
of,
agree with that.
I don't
Yeah.
know. They could have started it. I don't know. It was good. It was a good opening. I enjoyed it.
What where were we going with that? They could have started what?
I don't even know. I started a sentence, but then I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, cool.
I do
Well,
that too. We forgive you.
But yeah, so there's that scene, and what else sticks out? What's another really good
Well,
scene?
it's a horror movie in space, you know, and space is already scary in itself without any supernatural things going on, period, because it's vast nothingness, you know, and thinking about that is terrifying, you know, if you were out there and something happened and you just dumped out into emptiness forever, you know, that alone is a scary thought. You know, so and then they add the horror aspect, and you're like, oh well, now I definitely don't want to go to space. Thanks, guys. You
Yeah,
know, but that's what intrigued me about it. You know, it's just anything outer space in general. I'm interested in, but I can't think of too many films that are horror movies in space that aren't completely ridiculous, like Leprechaun. But you know, this was a serious horror movie in space, and everyone did do a good job.
yeah, absolutely. What are some other scenes that stick out? Like, gee, what's some of your favorite scenes?
Well, I mentioned it, but when like Sam Neill's in that little like in the vents with all the monitors, like the computer boards or whatever, and it all like lights up and stuff, that was really cool, just visually.
Yeah.
I liked the scene towards the end when like the big Bacta tank that gets full of blood like explodes all
Oh
over
yeah,
Stark. That was very shining.
Stark. That's her name. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just a very visually interesting movie.
Yeah. I would compare it a lot to Sphere, which came out around that same time.
I think
seen
that's a
that?
good comparison, like a horror version of Sphere.
Well, like Sphere is already kind of like a sci-fi horror, but that's under the ocean.
Oh, you're talking about the. I got confused with Contact. You're talking about the one that took place underwater.
Yeah.
Right. With Dustin Hoffman and.
Yeah.
Man, that
Samuel
movie
Jackson.
kind of disappointed. I was really hoping to see a giant octopus eat people, and it never happened.
The book was incredible.
Yeah.
Sphere is a very disappointing movie,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of cool. But it really reminded me of Event Horizon, and the other way too, vice versa. Seeing I definitely liked it when like Sam Neill came back all like Cenobite, kind of like Hellraiser,
Yeah.
basically. Like that was pretty terrifying.
And when the med guy gets like butterflied and like hung with the hooks, like that's Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, that was
That's
totally
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser right there, man. With him wide awake and feeling the whole thing.
And I think that was his like biggest fear too.
Yeah, it was because of his scar. He had surgery, you know, a procedure and all of that, and he was mortified of his guts spilling out.
Right. There's a band. I think they're pronounced Zao, Zao. So it might be Zao, but I think it's Zao. I don't know. It's one of the two. But they have an album called Liberate Jutame and Ferris, which is pretty much it's about Dante's Inferno.
Cool.
The 9 circles of hell. But they quote scenes from Event Horizon. They like play clips throughout the album.
Cool.
Just like the whole like darkness inside me, and it's like I won't go back and stuff like that. And it's just right before a song starts. So yeah, check that out. They're a metalcore band. Actually, a Christian metal band.
Hey man, don't get the wrong opinion about those Christian life metal bands. They're not called death metal because they sing about life. But
Well,
I'm just saying,
it's a
man, those
metalcore
guys
band.
throw hard.
It's metalcore.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they're pretty good. I was actually thinking about reaching out to them, saying if they want to join this podcast, but I totally blanked on that.
Okay.
But it's
I
pretty
was
good.
on the phone with Sam Neill before I got here, and I don't know what happened.
I mean, I have gotten other metal bands to be on the show before,
Oh,
so
sweet.
um. Anyway, I guess let's go ahead and move on to the prompt, unless anybody has anything else that they'd
No,
like to
yeah,
say.
I didn't get to tell you my favorite scene, and it'll be
Okay.
fast.
What's
Alright.
your favorite scene?
My favorite scene, and I didn't have to think hard. I did watch it twice, and I agreed both times. Was when Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne were having a quick little spatter, and he's talking. At this point, Lawrence wants to leave with everyone else, and he's like, "Let's get out of here." And Sam Neill goes, "You can't leave. She won't let you." And then Lawrence just doesn't even listen to that, and he's like, "Get your gear and get back on the Lewis and Clark, or you're walking home." And he's like, "I'm already home," and then just steps back into the
Yeah, he
darkness.
just goes into
And I'm
the
like,
darkness.
yes.
Yeah.
Just fades into black. And then like 20 minutes later, he's checking on another person, asking if they're okay. And I'm like, wait a second. You were just like delusional a second ago. Now you're concerned? But
Yeah.
anyway, I love that part. So yeah, we can move on.
Yeah, no, that part was great. I like how the one woman, she's just like, she's about to go out and she sees her son and she just like decides to follow him.
Yeah.
Like, which is like, why would you do that? You know he's in a wheelchair. Like, why? You see him running. You know this is fake. This isn't real. But she's just like not in her right head. She's disillusioned.
Yep.
Like,
oh man, that scene when she falls down and through that corridor is brutal, bouncing off the walls and shit. And just
yeah.
bones
And then,
bursting out of her body when she hits the ground.
And when she hits the ground, all the blood just like comes out. Yeah, that was pretty brutal.
A lot of blood.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. Like the kills we were saying that earlier. They're all really good.
Hey, and I was still impressed with the black water, when it was like the gravity wasn't, in place.
Oh,
and it was still just kind of like a floating wall of black water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can tell it's old, but I still felt that held up well, that they utilized the technology they had then well, and it still looked cool when he's putting his finger in there and pulling a little bit back and the way it splashed back in.
The water was pretty cool. The styrofoam, like Starbucks cups, were not.
Oh yeah, yeah. The product placement, yeah, that's never cool.
Well, I don't know if it was Starbucks. I just call it that. But there were styrofoam cups. Like
there was product placement somewhere in there.
I mean, yeah, it would have to be.
At one point, one of us missed. Someone cracked open a can of Coke, and we just didn't notice.
And it'd just be like,
yeah, refreshing.
Let's see. Damn, I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, how did you all feel about the end?
I wish they had kind of shown, I don't know, like, I know the ship blew up, but I feel like this is the kind of movie where, like, sure, the ship blew up, but I feel like someone's still alive. I feel like Sam Neill is still out there.
It didn't blow up. It went into the black hole.
Oh, right, yeah. So they're just chilling in the black hole. There's another movie there.
They're in hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, how did you feel about how the survivors, they're saved, or well, you see her, she gets saved by Sam Neill, and it's just like, you can't leave, or whatever he says, and then it turns out that's an hallucination, and then it's just regular guys, and Cooper's just like, hey, it's cool, we're saved, and she's just like screaming, and the doors close. Like, how did you feel about that?
I was happy with that.
Yeah, me too. I thought I wasn't at first. First time I saw it, I was like, that's kind of weird. I thought it was kind of a cop out, But the more I think about it now, it's kind of cool. It's like it shows that like she's just insane now, and that's not her life. She's just gonna be seeing Sam Neill for the rest of her life.
I could live with that.
Dustin, how about you? How did you feel about that?
Yeah, and actually, this one I did like think about a bunch because I couldn't. I was so indecisive. I liked it and I hated it at the same time. It was so annoying. This was just another thing of me nitpicking on the character development. I was angry that they chose Jolie's character to pick her to be the ending shot in the grand finale because they rarely focused on her at all, except for a few wise guy cracks at her for sexual jokes here and there, and she didn't experience much trauma or turmoil throughout the whole movie except for what was going on with everyone else. And then all of a sudden they decided to focus on her, and
yeah, they're like, hey, you're Ripley now.
right, it made it made no sense to me. But with that said, I also loved the whole Sam Neill, and he tormented her, and I'm like, yeah, get her, she sucked anyway.
Yeah, they were the survivors. They were really like the weakest characters the whole time.
They should have given us a reason in the beginning, a little spice to show us that she already feared him in some way to begin with.
Yeah,
and that was the foreshadowing for her to be at the end because she's finally meeting her terror.
You completely forget about her and Cooper like
right
multiple times.
That's what I'm talking about, the poor character development. Like that's just me nitpicking on it, but it really bothered me. Those things. I loved it, but those things bothered me too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll use that to segue into the next segment of the prompt that I gave you all. Pitch a prequel or a sequel or a remake or a reboot. So, what happens next after that? Anybody have anything?
Yeah, I thought about that a bunch. The idea of like Sam Neill, like there being a sequel, and he's now like learned to really harbor and manifest this hell wherever he wants, and can literally teleport wherever. He doesn't need his physical body anymore. He's now the ruler of the physical hell that existed in space, and he brings it to Earth to unleash hell on Earth and chaos.
Yeah.
Like the Birds movie with Sandra Bullock or whatever. And so kind of scenario like that. But he's the one bringing hell, and you just can't look, type of thing. But also, if I really wanted to do it, I'd actually just redo the movie and kind of focus a little bit more on the character development. And I totally fire Jack Noseworthy. And if you want to know why, go ahead and see Barbed Wire and his Oscar awarding performance in Idle Hands, and you'll know why. But yeah, he's just like a worthless actor to me. Jack Noseworthy.
But did you feel that way in this movie?
I mean, I saw where they were going with the baby bear, mama bear thing, and
that was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, they could have spent a little bit more character development in that department and actually made you feel happy and then sad for the two when something happened. But all those emotions were lost. When someone died, you weren't surprised. You're like, well, that's what you get. I don't care.
Cool. Yeah. So you want to remake this movie? Who would you change the cast around to?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't change the cast. I wouldn't change the director. I wouldn't change the cast except for Jack Noseworthy. I would have never hired him. I don't even know if I
have an older version of everybody.
Yeah, and I would have spent much more time on obviously isolating the characters, working up some emotional attachment to them, so you feel bad for them whenever they are tricked into their demise, and things made a little bit more sense. So, but yeah, a sequel would be cool. That whole Sam Neill, Hell on Earth thing, and no rule hell. It could be Omen 4.
All right. It could be Mouth of Madness. Okay.
Yeah, Mouth of Madness. Yeah. He came back to do the Mouth of Madness.
Right. See, I think that Mouth of Madness, if like altered, I mean, clearly it's not the sequel to Event Horizon.
Right.
But I I have an idea. So like the movie ends where it ends with survivors like they get out, they're saved by this other crew, but she sees Sam Neill's character, so she's just like hallucinating. She's crazy. So she spends the next 20 years in a mental hospital because she's just lost her mind. Same with Justin. He's like physically and mentally just fucked. And so they're like, what happened here? You know, what happened to the ship? It just disappeared. And we saw the Lewis and Clark ship blew up. So what's going on? And they can't really like they try to explain it, but nobody takes them seriously, so they put him in a mental hospital except for Cooper. He's just like they let him go because there's nothing wrong with him. He's just like, yeah, Dr. Weir went mad. So anyway, 20 years later, now in our present day, they make a movie where the Event Horizon comes back from the black hole, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, and so they go back to these survivors. They're like, the Event Horizon has come back, and she's just like, oh no! And then she just sees Sam Neill in the corner over here, and like he's like haunting her basically, and
Yeah.
and so they send Cooper back, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna like destroy this myself, and send him back, and then like that's all I've got so far.
Oh, and then right after what you just said, Cowboy Curtis comes in and tips his hat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne comes back, and I don't know, but it's something like that. I don't know how to end it, but I damn sure know how to begin it. And it's pretty much like Mouth of Madness. It's like you know the scene in Mouth of Madness where Sam Neill is like walking around the mental hospital, and it's just like he's just like there's like monsters from like another dimension coming in to destroying his reality.
Right.
That's basically what she sees.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, so like the entire
Yeah,
reality is being
awesome.
destroyed.
I still think that movie's way underrated, man. That is a great film.
Mouth of Madness.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it on the show at some point. I have a lot. It'll probably be a while, but I'll do it eventually.
Cool.
Bree, what would your pitch be? I mean, I'm sorry, I called you Bree. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I get called a lot worse. A prequel. I mean, you gotta do it with the Event Horizon and that crew. Like I don't know. I just think it would fit well, just being able to see them all go mad and then have like, I don't know, the opening shot like be something from, or have it be like them watching it on the monitors in this movie. I just think a prequel would work really well.
I agree. So it's like the first crew that comes out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And see what happens to them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what do you think would happen? So like in the footage that we see in this movie, that they're just like, hey, we're all here, haha, look at us. There's that goofball back there, and then blah blah blah, and then they turn on thing. Let's push this button, and then all of a sudden it's a blood orgy.
Yeah.
Would it be like that instant, or do you think it would be like
I think it would be gradual. Like it'd be the same sort of thing, but obviously in like that part, not everyone's all dead at the same time. They're all still like alive. They're just all bloody and crazy. So I don't know. I think having them all slightly going mad, but not killing each other, and then being able to see that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only wrong thing with that, only thing I have against that is it would just end terribly.
Yeah.
It would not have a happy ending at all.
This whole prequel business just popped what I feel is a great idea in my head for a prequel out of nowhere. And it would all be about Sam Neill and while he was developing this wormhole device, and as he's developing it, he already knew what it was capable of, because he built a smaller scale version of it, in his science basement, and realized that it was a opening gate to hell. And that's when his obsession grew and started to disguise it as a teleportation device, knowing that he wanted to. Right.
Oops,
You see where I'm going with that?
yeah.
So just like a whole movie of his character and knowing what its true intention is, and he is hoping for that outcome.
You think that would make a good movie?
I really do, man. To be honest with you, I'd see it.
Okay.
I mean, it's okay. Everyone else can say they wouldn't, but it doesn't matter what you think.
Well, yeah, that's pretty cool. I forgot to mention earlier that this, Dustin, you'd be interested in hearing this. There was a lot cut out from this movie.
Yes,
like I said, like Cooper had more character development.
it actually has a tragic story.
Did you hear about like how like the blood orgy scene was like so much more?
Oh yeah, I mean, they were going to release a director's cut where it was like 35 minutes longer and whatnot.
There is no director's cut.
No, they couldn't, because the footage was lost due to irresponsibility.
It got lost at a salt mine in Transylvania.
Yep. Ghost took it. Oh, actually got sucked into the event horizon. We're sorry, guys.
Yeah. But the blood orgy scene was supposed to be more like a lot to it. Like that they showed like crazy things, like amputees. They like hired amputees to like be in
Who was talking about that? I didn't see who was it the director or the
no, like
saying what they
this.
lost?
They actually filmed this.
Well, no, I know they filmed it. They literally lost the footage was lost, so that's why the director's cut was never released.
Yeah.
Who did you hear describing what they had filmed?
I've heard that from various other reviews.
Oh, okay.
Of this movie.
I never heard what was on it. I just know it was lost, and it was just like
they got
tragic
amputees to like sodomize other people.
Oh, yeah.
And but a bunch of like really gruesome stuff. Yeah, and then they showed it to a test audience, and they were like, "Hell no!" And so the producers were like, "Yeah, cut that out." But anyway, so I guess let's go ahead and rate this. Dustin, what do you give it?
This, despite all the things that were negative that I said about it, weren't negative things. They were constructive criticism. But I actually give it a 9 out of 10 Sam Neill skin pieces, because it has a high quality of shock factor, regardless of anything else. And that alone is worth every minute of it, because, it was kind of the dawn of reintroducing that type of horror, because a decade had gone by between the Hellraiser franchise, their first couple movies and whatnot. And they were reintroducing that in a fun way.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you rate it? Oh wait, no, you already told me.
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
G, how about you? First time seeing it, just now.
I
Very
give
fresh.
this a 6.5 black holes out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not perfect.
Not perfect, but I really enjoyed watching it. It was refreshing and not what I expected it to be. So I'm happy I got the opportunity to watch it, because I probably wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, for me, I'm probably gonna give it 7 blood orgies. Yeah, it's fun. It's real fun. It's kind of like one of those like party movies, pretty much. Like you put it in the background during a party, and everybody's like, "Damn, what's this? This is crazy."
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Do you think the whole movie would have been ruined if Sam Neill at one point goes, "We'll tear your soul apart"?
You know what he did say was, "Let me show you." which is just like we have such sights to show you.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Missing half.
yeah, because he's got Lawrence Fishburne, and he's like, "Let me show you," and then you see like all the images of hell and everything, and he's like, "Hell no!"
We have such sights to show you.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I guess that'll do it for this episode of Culture Trash Horror Movie Grind. Next episode, stick around. We are doing a movie. Let me know if y'all know this one. It's called Phenomena, aka
Oh yeah.
Creepers.
Yep.
That's on my list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I've never seen a Dario Argento movie, so
Oh,
that
man,
one's
okay.
on.
This is a pretty bizarre one. It's
They picked a great actress, of course, and I love
Yes.
the Labyrinth.
yeah, Jennifer Connolly.
Yep, she's
Um,
so gorgeous and just did great in that movie.
She was like 14 in that movie.
Well, I'm not talking about her as a kid, man. She's older than I am.
Yeah. No, I mean she definitely grew up to be very gorgeous. She was probably like my first celebrity crush.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we're doing that movie next week, and that I first saw that movie at Alamo Draft House midnight screening for free, and it's so bizarre. It's so crazy. Like there's like this scene where she's like running. She's like, I don't know, I haven't seen it since then, and that was like a decade ago. So my memory.
Alamo Draft House. I haven't been to Texas in so long. I don't know.
What? What was the question?
Are they still a functioning theater?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do miss that place.
Yeah. So what I remember from this movie is that she's just like she's running from a killer and then accidentally goes into the killer's house, not knowing that it was the killer's house. And there's just like all these like mirrors all over the house, but they're covered up. And it's just like a bizarre number of mirrors, just like here, and here. And but they're all covered up. And she's like, "What's up with the mirrors?" And this old lady is just like, "Oh yeah, my son, he's too ugly, so he can't see himself." And she's like, "Oh, I'm sure he's not that ugly." And she's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." And then she like tries to kill her, and then she like escapes, but escapes into a pool of dead bodies, and she's like drowning in this pool of dead bodies, and she like gets back up and she's just like, "Oh, that sucks," and then runs down a hallway and then goes into this room. She just walks into a random room, and in the room more mirrors that are also covered up. And just this that's all that's in this room. It's just mirrors that are covered up, and this little boy who's crying in the corner. She's like behind him, so she can't see him. And he's like, "Oh, you're the little boy I heard about." And he's like, "Don't look at me, I'm ugly." And she's like, "Oh, you can't be too bad. It's probably fine. Let me see." And she turns him around, and he is so fucking ugly that like she screams in his face, and she's like, "Ah!" And then she runs out of the house because he's that ugly. And then she runs out of the house, runs down this ramp, gets on a motorboat, and jets out of there. And then he like chases her down, jumps onto the boat, and she's like because he's angry that she like screamed at. So she like I don't know. It's been like 10 years since I saw this, but I remember she just like blows up the boat, and then a shit ton of bugs just come and just like eat the kid. And then she escapes, and she's like,
That's
"Oh."
my favorite part, man. The bugs.
She's like, "Oh, I'm good now." And then her dad just shows up. I mean, this movie is not good. Her dad just it's just like this movie should be called what was it called? Like the act of God kind of thing. It's like a Deus Ex Machina, the movie. That's what this movie should be called. Deus Ex Machina of the movie, because like that's all this movie is. So her dad comes and saves her, but then his head falls off, and it turns out it's the evil bitch from before. She cut his head off, and she's about to cut off Jennifer Connelly's head, and she's like, "Go ahead, call your bugs now," because Jennifer Connelly controls bugs, and she's just like, "Call your bugs now," and then she falls over dead, and there's a monkey right behind her that stabbed her with a razor blade.
I love monkeys.
It's so bizarre. I can't wait to make fun of this movie again next week. So tune in for that.
And they don't use bugs anymore in movies, so I mean that's worth something too.
There you have it. All right, Dustin, thanks for joining.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back. G, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
See you again next time. Yeah, I think you'll be my new like person to see brand new viewings of old cool classics, because like this is great. Most of the people I have on here have like seen these movies like 20 times over. It's good to have like a fresh set of eyes.
I agree.
Okay, well, yeah, so check out G on her show, Hail to the Deadites, also on Infamous Horror. Do you have anything coming up in the future?
Just a lot of Evil Dead the game. Both Chris and I, he's my co-host, we've been streaming it a lot. So my Twitch name is the same as this, Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, you're playing the game now?
Yeah.
You should get Brie on here, because she does her shows about video games.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah,
I haven't played that game yet. I have heard some positive things.
It's
I wasn't
incredible.
too excited about the story mode being only 2.5 hours long, but it's all about the online DLC part of that game.
Okay.
But I have bought every single Evil Dead game that's ever been made since the Nintendo.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll finish this episode up right here, and see y'all next time.
See you next time.